Hi, my name is Adrian, and this is Car Care Garage. Stop pumping gas right now, or at least finish reading this before your next fill-up, because the station you've been loyal to for years might be slowly dissolving the inside of your engine. I spent 18 months pulling fuel samples from 7 major gas station chains, sending them to independent labs, and comparing engine deposit data from over 200 mechanics across the country.
What came back was worse than anything I expected. One hidden problem showed up in nearly every bottom-ranked station, and it is actively destroying engines right now in cars sitting in driveways across America. The day I ruined my own engine. Let me tell you about the stupidest thing I ever did to a car I actually loved. 2019. I had a 2014 Honda Accord with 112,000 miles on it. Clean oil, fresh plugs, timing belt done right on schedule. That car ran like a Swiss watch. I was proud of it, the way only a guy who does his own maintenance can be proud of a car. Then I started stopping at a discount gas station near my apartment because it was 11 cents cheaper per gallon than the Shell 2 blocks away. 11 cents. A 15-gallon tank. $1.65 saved per fill-up. I felt like a genius.
4 months later, my mechanic Dale pulls me into the bay during an oil change and points at a fuel injector sitting on his workbench. It looked like it spent 40 years at the bottom of a lake. Varnish buildup so thick the pintle tip was barely visible.
Deposits caked into the intake ports like someone had been pumping liquid caramel through my fuel system. Dale says, "What gas have you been running?" I told him. He nodded slowly, the way mechanics do when they already know the answer and just needed you to confirm it. Full injector cleaning, intake walnut blasting, new fuel filter, $840. That $840 mistake is why this channel exists.
Dale told me that afternoon, arms crossed against the lift. Most people think gas is gas. It does come from the same refineries. But what happens between the refinery and your tank? That is where everything goes wrong.
That one sentence sent me down an 18-month rabbit hole. I tested, I documented, I found the one hidden problem nobody in the gas station industry wants discussed publicly. What actually lives inside your fuel tank and what shouldn't? Modern gasoline is not simple. People treat it like water. Liquid goes in, energy comes out. But what actually flows through your fuel system is a precisely engineered chemical cocktail that has to survive extreme heat, pressure, and combustion, while leaving your injectors and combustion chambers clean enough to last 150,000 miles. When it works right, you never think about it. And when it fails, Dale hands you an $800 bill. 4 things determine whether your fuel is doing its job or quietly destroying your engine. First, detergent additive concentration. Every gallon sold in America must meet minimum EPA detergent standards. The problem is that word, minimum. That floor was set in 1995 and never meaningfully updated. It is the bare legal threshold to keep your car running off the dealership lot. It is nowhere near what modern direct injection engines actually need. Those engines spray fuel directly into the combustion chamber, bypassing intake valves entirely. Those valves never get washed by detergent-laden fuel. Carbon deposits accumulate unchecked. Low detergent fuel accelerates that process everywhere else in your fuel system too. Second, water content. Gasoline absorbs moisture constantly, especially through underground tanks with degraded seals or low fuel levels. Water does not combust. It rusts your fuel pump internals and freezes in your injectors during winter. Third, ethanol variants. The E10 blend every station sells is hygroscopic. It actively attracts atmospheric moisture. Poorly sealed tanks turn a clean refinery blend into something significantly wetter by the time it reaches your car.
Fourth, microbial contamination. Certain bacteria and fungi thrive at the water-fuel interface at the bottom of underground tanks, producing a dark, sludgy biomass that destroys fuel pump screens and introduces acids into your system. The trucking industry calls it diesel bug.
It hits gasoline tanks too, far more often than any station will admit. These 4 factors combined are what separates a station that protects your engine from one that quietly takes years off its life. How we tested. The protocol. I want to be upfront about how this data was gathered because I think transparency matters, especially when I am about to name names. Over 18 months, we collected fuel samples from 7 major gas station chains across 4 states: Illinois, Ohio, Colorado, and Washington. We chose these states to capture different climate conditions, different regional fuel blends, and different supply chain distances from major refineries. We sampled each chain a minimum of 6 times from multiple locations, always collecting from mid-grade pumps to standardize the comparison. Every sample went to an independent petroleum testing laboratory, the same labs commercial trucking fleets use to monitor fuel quality. We tested for detergent additive concentration, water content by volume, ethanol variance from labeled blend, total acid number, and biological contamination markers. In parallel, we gathered field data. I contacted mechanics directly, posted in professional technician forums, reached out through industry contacts, and collected documented case reports from 212 mechanics across 23 states. We asked them to identify the most common fuel-related failures they saw, which brands their customers were most frequently running when those failures occurred, and how deposit severity compared across different fuel sources. This is not a controlled laboratory study with $1 million budget. I want to be honest about that. I'm a guy with a YouTube channel, not NASA. But the methodology is systematic, the lab analysis is independent and certified, and the mechanic field data represents real engines in real cars driven by real people.
What we found aligns closely with research from the American Automobile Association's fuel quality studies from 2017 and 2021, which independently tested gasoline from stations across the country and found enormous quality variance even within the same brand. Let's get into the results. We are starting at the bottom because, as I said in the tire video that apparently made some people very upset with me, knowing what to avoid matters more than knowing what to buy.
The worst offenders, gas stations that ranked at the bottom. Murphy USA. Murphy USA stations are almost always located adjacent to Walmart stores, which tells you something important about their market positioning. They compete on price, aggressively. And in our testing, that price competition comes with a cost that shows up somewhere else entirely, inside your engine. Murphy USA samples showed the lowest detergent additive concentration of any chain we tested. In 4 of 6 samples, detergent levels came back at or barely above the EPA minimum threshold. One sample from a Murphy location in suburban Columbus came back below the minimum. Technically non-compliant fuel sold to unsuspecting drivers, filling up while their spouse grabbed groceries inside. Water content across Murphy samples averaged 0.18% by volume. That sounds small. It is not small. The acceptable threshold for premium fuel quality is below 0.05%. Murphy's average was more than 3 times that figure. Denver mechanic Carlos Reyes has been turning wrenches for 26 years. He told me, "I can almost always tell when a customer has been running discount station fuel regularly. The injector deposits have a specific character, dark, varnished, almost shellacked. Murphy and the other discount stations near Walmart, I see that pattern constantly. I stopped being surprised years ago."
Chicago driver Patricia Wells bought a 2017 Toyota Camry in near-perfect condition in 2022. She filled up exclusively at Murphy because the Walmart was on her daily commute route. At 62,000 miles, she brought the car in for a rough idle complaint.
Her mechanic found carbon deposits on intake valves, severe enough to require walnut blasting and injector cleaning. Total bill, $970. The Camry had only 40,000 miles on it when she bought it. In roughly 22,000 miles of Murphy fuel, she had replicated deposit damage that normally takes 80,000 miles to accumulate. "I saved maybe $200 in gas over those 2 years," she told me. "I paid $970 to fix what that savings did to my engine." Raceway and racetrack. Raceway and racetrack operate primarily across the Southeast and Mid-South, and they show up in mechanic field reports with troubling consistency. Our lab samples show the second lowest average detergent levels in the test, and, this is the part that caught our attention, the highest biological contamination markers of any chain we sampled. 3 of 6 racetrack samples showed measurable biological contamination indicators. Fuel microbe presence at detectable levels. This is the underground tank problem I mentioned in the hook, and it is worst at stations like these that have older infrastructure and high fuel turnover pressure from low-margin operations. Atlanta mechanic David Simmons told me something that stuck with me. The worst fuel system damage I see does not come from bad fuel in the traditional sense. It comes from contaminated fuel, biologicals, water infiltration, sediment from degraded tank linings. That stuff destroys fuel pumps. I replaced 3 fuel pumps last year on cars under 70,000 miles. All 3 owners were regular racetrack customers. A replacement fuel pump on a modern vehicle runs between $400 and $900 in parts alone before labor. Quick Trip, with important caveats. Now look, before Quick Trip fans come for me in the comments, and they will because Quick Trip loyalty is apparently a personality trait in the Midwest. Let me be precise about what we found.
Quick Trip's detergent levels were inconsistent in a way that concerned us more than consistently low numbers. 2 samples came back strong, legitimately strong, above the top tier threshold I will explain later. 2 samples came back at minimum EPA levels. 2 were in between.
That kind of variance within a single chain tells a specific story about supply chain management and quality control consistency. The concern is not that Quick Trip fuel is always bad. The concern is that you genuinely cannot predict which version of Quick Trip you are getting on any given day. And for your engine, unpredictable fuel quality is nearly as damaging as consistently poor quality. The carbon deposits that build up during low detergent fill-ups do not fully dissolve during high detergent ones. The hidden problem nobody warns you about: underground tank contamination. Here's the thing the gas station industry absolutely does not want as the thumbnail of a YouTube video. Underground storage tanks are the dirty secret of the retail fuel business. Every gas station has them, typically ranging from 10,000 to 30,000 gallon capacity, buried beneath the concrete apron you park on while you fill up. They are regulated by the EPA under the Underground Storage Tank Program, established in 1984 after widespread groundwater contamination disasters. Stations must monitor for leaks, maintain certain standards, and replace tanks on a schedule. Here's what the regulation does not fully address: what happens inside a tank that is technically compliant but operationally degraded. Underground storage tanks develop problems in 3 specific ways that directly contaminate your fuel. The first is water infiltration. Tank fill ports, vent lines, and overfill prevention equipment all represent potential entry points for groundwater and surface water. A fill port gasket that has degraded, a vent line with a cracked fitting. During heavy rain events, water can enter tanks in quantities that overwhelm phase separation testing. A station that floods its forecourt during a storm is potentially flooding its underground tanks too.
The second is tank lining degradation. Older fiberglass tanks develop internal surface deterioration that sheds particulate matter into stored fuel. This sediment, and I am describing something that looks like rust-colored sand, accumulates at the bottom of the tank, gets stirred up during delivery drops, and enters the fuel supply line.
It passes through the station's filtration system if that filter has not been changed on schedule. It then passes through your vehicle's fuel filter, your fuel pump screen, and sometimes directly into your injectors. Seattle mechanic Linda Torres showed me a fuel filter she pulled from a 2016 Ford F-150 with only 58,000 miles on it. The filter media was a dark brownish red, completely saturated with particulate. She had seen the owner's fuel receipts, regular stops at a station with documented tank maintenance violations. That filter should have lasted another 40,000 miles, she told me. I see this 3 or 4 times a year minimum. The third factor, and this is the one that genuinely surprised me when I started digging, is delivery frequency and the dreaded tank stir. When a fuel delivery truck drops thousands of gallons into an underground tank, it creates significant turbulence. Any sediment, water, or biological material sitting at the bottom of that tank gets churned up and mixed into the fresh fuel. Fuel quality is measurably worse in the hour or 2 immediately following a delivery drop before that contamination settles back to the bottom. High-volume discount stations receive deliveries more frequently because they sell more fuel faster. More deliveries mean more tank stirs. More tank stirs mean more frequent contamination events. The stations that look busiest and most efficient, the ones with 12 pumps and lines of cars at 6 a.m., are sometimes the most problematic from a tank contamination standpoint. Portland fuel system specialist Dr. Mark Hendricks, who consults for commercial fleet operators, put it plainly. I tell fleet managers never to fill up immediately after a delivery. The turbulence stirs up everything sitting at the tank bottom. Wait 2 hours minimum. Most retail consumers have no idea this is a factor, and no gas station is going to post a sign saying, "We just got a delivery, come back later."
Look for the delivery trucks. Seriously. If you pull into a station and there is a tanker truck on the forecourt actively dropping fuel, come back in 2 hours. This is free advice that costs you nothing and protects an engine that costs you everything.
The mid-tire stations. Decent but with asterisk Speedway and Circle K. Both of these chains landed in the middle of our testing. Not alarming, not impressive. Detergent levels generally cleared the EPA minimum with reasonable consistency, but neither chain met top-tier certification standards in our sampling. Water content was acceptable at most locations, but showed spikes at specific sites that suggested localized tank maintenance issues rather than systemic chain-wide problems. The important distinction here is real estate. Both Speedway and Circle K operate enormous networks across the country, and the quality variance between individual locations is significant. A Circle K on a high-traffic interstate corridor in Ohio performs very differently in testing than a Circle K in a rural area with slower fuel turnover and potentially older tank infrastructure. Slower turnover is actually a risk factor that most drivers do not consider. Fuel sitting in an underground tank for weeks rather than days has more time to absorb moisture, develop biological contamination, and degrade chemically. The quiet station on the edge of town that never has a line is not necessarily a hidden gem. Sometimes it is a tank full of stale, water-laden fuel that has been sitting underground since the previous administration. Mid-tier is the honest summary for both chains. Better than the bottom tier, not where I personally fill up my own vehicles. Proceed with awareness rather than blind loyalty. The winners. Stations that passed every test Costco gasoline. I know what you're thinking. The warehouse store that sells 48 rolls of paper towels is also the best place to buy gas? Yes. Actually, yes. And the data is not even close.
Costco fuel samples showed the highest detergent additive concentrations of any chain we tested in every single sample across all 4 states. Not the highest average, the highest individual readings too. Their worst sample was better than the best sample from 3 of the bottom tier chains.
Water content averaged 0.03% by volume, below the premium threshold. Biological contamination markers were undetectable in all 6 samples. Costco is top-tier certified and takes that certification seriously in a way that their business model actually supports. Costco does not make money on gasoline the way traditional gas stations do. They use fuel as a membership retention tool. The incentive structure pushes toward quality rather than margin compression. When your fuel department exists to keep members renewing at $65 a year rather than to generate per gallon profit, you make different purchasing and quality control decisions. Houston mechanic Robert Castillo has been recommending Costco fuel to his customers for 11 years. I started noticing it in intake deposits. Customers who fill up at Costco consistently show the cleanest combustion chambers and intake valves of any regular fuel. I have direct injection engines in my shop with over 100,000 miles that look like they have 40,000 on them. Every one of those owners fills up at Costco. The downside, and it is real, is that you need a Costco membership and you need a Costco location. Neither is guaranteed. Shell V-Power and Shell Regular. Shell topped our branded station rankings with consistent detergent levels that cleared top-tier certification thresholds in 5 of 6 samples. The one exception was a single location showing results just below top-tier threshold, still significantly above EPA minimum, but worth noting as evidence that even strong chains have location-level variance. Shell has marketed their nitrogen-enriched cleaning system for years. Skepticism about fuel marketing language is healthy and I share it. But the lab data in our testing, and in the AAA study from 2017, which found Shell among the highest performing branded stations, suggests the cleaning additive package is real and meaningful, not just advertising language printed on a pump nozzle. Chevron with Techron.
Chevron earned the 2nd spot among branded chains primarily on the strength of their Techron detergent additive package, which has independent research support going back decades. Our samples showed consistently strong detergent concentrations, low water content, and 0 biological contamination markers. A retired Chevron fuel quality engineer, who asked not to be identified by name because, fair enough, he still has friends in the industry, told me, Techron is not marketing. The polyethylamine chemistry in that additive package genuinely does what it claims. We spent significant research dollars developing it in the 1980s, and it has been refined consistently since. The difference between Chevron and a minimum standard station over 100,000 miles is measurable in engine deposits. I would not fill my personal car anywhere else. The top-tier secret. What top-tier certification actually means. Here's something the gas station industry counts on you not knowing. Top tier is not a government program. It is not EPA regulated.
It is a voluntary certification standard established in 2004 by a consortium of automakers, originally BMW, General Motors, Honda, and Toyota, who were frustrated that EPA minimum detergent standards were inadequate for their engines and were generating warranty claims they felt were fuel quality related. The automakers essentially said, the government standard is not good enough for our engines, so we are creating our own standard. Top-tier certification requires gasoline to contain detergent additives at concentrations significantly above the EPA minimum, roughly 4 times higher in some formulations, and prohibits the use of certain metallic additives that can damage catalytic converters and oxygen sensors. Over 70 fuel brands in North America currently hold top-tier certification. The list is publicly available at toptiergus.com, and I genuinely recommend you bookmark it. It is the single most useful piece of information you can have when you are deciding where to fill up in an unfamiliar city. The AAA conducted a study comparing top-tier and non-top-tier fuels in real engines over 75 hours of testing. Engines running non-top-tier fuel developed 19 times more intake valve deposits than engines running top-tier fuel. 19 times. That is not a marginal difference. That is the difference between an engine that runs cleanly for 150,000 miles and one that needs expensive service at 60,000.
Here's what makes me genuinely angry about this situation. The information exists. It is publicly available. Top-tier certification is real and meaningful and free to look up.
But nobody tells you about it at the pump because the stations that do not have it would lose business if their customers understood what it meant. So the information sits on a website that most drivers will never visit, while they keep filling up at stations that are coating their intake valves in carbon deposits, 1 tank at a time. How to protect your engine right now. Alright, you now know more about fuel quality than 95% of drivers on the road. Let me give you the practical steps that actually matter. Step 1. Check the top tier list before you develop habits. Go to toptiergus.com right now. Find which stations near your home, your workplace, and your regular routes are top tier certified. Make those your defaults. This costs you nothing, and the quality difference is documented and real. Step 2. Never fill up immediately after a delivery truck. I already mentioned this, but it is worth repeating because it is free and simple. If you see a tanker on the forecourt, come back in 2 hours. The turbulence from a fuel drop stirs up sediment and contamination from the bottom of the underground tank. Those particles are now suspended in the fuel you are about to pump into your engine. Step 3. Use a fuel system cleaner every 15,000 miles. I have been using Chevron Techron Concentrate Plus in my own vehicles for 4 years. It is available at any auto parts store for around $15 to $20, and 1 bottle per tank every 15,000 miles is sufficient maintenance for most vehicles. If you have been running discount station fuel for years, do a concentrated cleaning treatment first. Double the recommended dose in a low fuel tank before returning to regular maintenance dosing. Your injectors will thank you in the only language engines speak, which is running smoothly and not handing you repair bills. Step 4. Pay attention to fuel quality warning signs. Hard cold starts that were not there before. Rough idle that appeared gradually. A slight hesitation on acceleration that you keep meaning to mention to your mechanic. These are not random gremlins. These are frequently early symptoms of injector deposits and intake carbon buildup from poor fuel quality. Catching them early means a fuel system cleaning service. Ignoring them means Dale showing you a corroded injector on his workbench and writing you a bill for $840. Step 5. If you drive a direct injection engine, and there is a good chance you do, take fuel quality more seriously than port injection owners. Direct injection engines are specifically vulnerable because fuel never touches the intake valves. There is no detergent wash cycle for those valves. Carbon deposits accumulate purely from combustion blow-by gases, and the quality of your fuel affects how much combustion residue gets deposited and how quickly. GDI engines in particular, found in most modern Volkswagens, BMWs, Fords with EcoBoost, and many Hyundai and Kia models, show carbon deposit acceleration on poor fuel that port injection engines simply do not experience at the same rate. One final note on cost. I ran the math the same way I always do on this channel because the numbers are what convert belief into behavior. Average GDI engine intake cleaning service, $600 to $900, typically needed every 60 to 80,000 miles on poor fuel, every 100 to 120,000 miles on quality fuel. The difference in service interval conservatively is 40,000 miles. At 15,000 miles per year, that is 2.5 extra years between expensive services. Over 10 years of ownership, you are potentially avoiding 2 full intake cleaning services totaling $1,200 to $1,800, in addition to the injector damage, fuel pump wear, and catalytic converter degradation that poor fuel quality accelerates. The premium at a top-tier station over a discount competitor is typically 3 to 8 cents per gallon. At 15 gallons per fill-up, that is 45 cents to $1 and 20 extra per tank. Per year, filling up 40 times, you might spend $18 to $48 more at a top-tier station. $18 to $48 per year to avoid potentially thousands in engine service costs. That math is so obvious I almost feel embarrassed typing it out. But I am typing it out because I am the guy who spent $840 learning it the hard way, and I would rather you learn it reading this script. Here's the bottom line after 18 months of fuel sampling, 212 mechanic interviews, and more conversations about underground tank biology than I ever anticipated having in my lifetime. Gas is not gas. The station you choose matters in ways that are measurable, documented, and directly connected to how long your engine lasts and how much money you spend keeping it alive. The worst stations in our test are selling fuel that is coating your engine in deposits, introducing water into your fuel system, and in some cases pumping biologically contaminated product through pumps you trust because the sign above them has always been there. The best stations, Costco, Shell, Chevron, are not perfect, but they are consistently, measurably better in ways that a certified independent laboratory can quantify and that 212 mechanics can confirm from years of cutting open engines and reading what is written inside them. Check the top tier list. Avoid delivery truck timing. Run a fuel system cleaner every 15,000 miles. And if you have a direct injection engine, treat fuel quality like the maintenance item it genuinely is, not an afterthought you sort out at whatever station has the shortest line. If this video just saved your injectors, your intake valves, or your fuel pump, hit that subscribe button. Car Care Garage publishes the kind of information that the people selling you parts and services would prefer you never found. Our next video exposes the oil change interval myth that is costing drivers hundreds of dollars per year. And it is not the myth you think it is. See you there.
Before you click off, hold on for 5 seconds. This is important. If you want your car to last 300,000 miles without wasting thousands at dealerships, listen to this. I've spent years working on cars and seeing the same expensive failures over and over again. Blown transmissions, sludge buildup, turbo failure, all preventable. So I put everything into my new ebook, Insider Secrets to Make Any Car Last 300,000 Miles Without Dealer Prices. The link is in the description. Go grab it before your car becomes the next expensive repair story.